Yeah, thank you. You know, for somebody from Odessa, Texas, being in an affair like this makes you a little nervous. Kind of reminds me of when I went to Velma, Alma, Oklahoma to do an exhibition with Coach Harris, and I'd never played in front of a crowd before or hit a golf ball or anything. And he had me step up there, and I don't know, 100 people there, 200, seemed like 20,000 to me. And I looked down there, my knees were shaking. And Coach was kind enough to point that out to everybody that was in attendance. I don't remember if I made contact, whatever happened. I just know I was nervous. So tonight as I get ready for this, I remember a sign that I saw over the counter at the Wichita State University golf course, one of the tournaments we played in, and looked up there and it said, people only can think you a fool till you open your mouth and remove all doubt. I've kind of subscribed to that for a lot of time, and I'm gonna hold to that tonight. I'm gonna try to say as little as possible and keep my foot out of my mouth. I got a lot of people to thank because all the other inductees tonight got here on their ability. They're either great players or great architects. I wanted to be a great player, but I just wasn't. I worked hard enough. I just don't think I worked smart enough a lot of times. But I have a lot of people to thank because I got here on the backs of a lot of great players, and I got here on the backs of a lot of great donors that made it possible for us to have enough money to compete nationally. We wanted to win national championship, and Oklahoma State wasn't able to fund that. Obviously, they were going to pay the golf coach $6,500. You weren't going to have a very good budget. I think my first year of the budget was $27,000. That included my salary. That was all the travel, scholarships, equipment, you name it, $27,000. And when I came in to see the athletic director after that first year, Floyd Gass, I sat down in front of his desk so I can still picture it like it's yesterday. And he said, Mike, you had a pretty good year, but we're going to need to cut your budget about 10%. I said, Coach Gass, I can't compete for a national championship if you do that to me. And he said, well, we don't care if you have a national championship contender here. We're moving on to bigger and better things. And I left that meeting thinking I'm lucky we have that Pro-Am, and I'm going to get really aggressive because there's no way that you're going to be able to compete at the level that I would like unless you get some outside help. So a lot of people to thank tonight. You can hold your breath. You don't have to hold your breath. I'm not going to thank every player that played for me. I'm not going to thank every donor that helped us, but I'm going to mention just a few. And I want to start with my mom and dad. They did a lot of things for me, but, you know, my dad worked in the oil field. He bumped up against that glass ceiling because he didn't have a college degree. And my mom and dad knew that they didn't want that to happen to me, so they made it a priority for me to get a college education. So when it came time to pick a school, and that video talked a little bit about it, but I went to Norman and I played 9 holes of golf with Bud Cronin. He was assistant basketball coach, the head golf coach, and after we finished playing, he offered me a scholarship, not so much based on how I played that day, but the fact that Bruce Wilkerson was on the team and he was a great player. And I'd played a little bit with him and he thought I had some potential. So everybody from Ardmore was going to Norman, going to OU. They had the best football team in the world, and why wouldn't you go there? So I was ready to sign up. And then we went to Wichita, Kansas, and Chris Gears was our head pro in Ardmore. And he said, listen, and he had played at Oklahoma State. He said, before you make that decision to go to OU, you need to at least meet Laverne Harris and let him talk to you. So I hit a few balls for Coach Harris in Wichita, and he said, come up next week. I'll play 9 holes with you. And after that 9 holes, he said, look, I think you might be a pretty good player, but you're not worth the scholarship. If you want to walk on, I'll see if I can get you something from the Trans-Mississippi if you'll major in agronomy. So on the ride home, my dad said, you know, I noticed you were looking at those All-American plaques and that NCAA championship trophy. Your mother and I, we've saved our whole life for you to go to school. And you go where you want to. And so I went to Oklahoma State. Sorry if I get a little emotional. I just wish that every player that I recruited through the years had the same kind of parents I did, because they would have made, some of them would have made a lot better decision if they had had that ability to choose for less money. Laban Harris didn't give me a scholarship, but he gave me a lot of other stuff. He pulled me up by the bootstraps and made me a pretty good player. Well, he would let you play him for a golf ball if you put up 25 cents. He kept the money. He was notoriously tight. He got the balls for free, just like Willie Wood said I did. And Willie, it was 25 cents. Inflation hadn't hit the deal. But 25 cents, and if you beat him, you got a golf ball. And I got to that first tee at Lakeside every day. I couldn't wait to get out of class and go play him for a golf ball. And it took forever. I never beat him as a freshman. I don't know if I ever beat him as a sophomore. I wish that when I finally did beat him, I'd kept that golf ball. But, being young, I thought this is the first of many. It might have been the last one. He was a great player. And he worked harder than anybody on the team, and he really taught me what it took to be great at something. You have to sacrifice and work hard and all those principles. So he was not only a great golf coach, he was a teacher of life, principles, all that. And I think he was one of the great coaches all time in his sport. And then when it came time for him to retire, he blessed me with the job. I really feel like he was the reason I applied. He was probably the reason that I got the job. He never said that. I think that. And then while I was a player, he tried to embarrass me at a tournament. He had me voted as lover of the tournament, king of the queens, and I told you I was a shy kid. So I had to go sit with all these Southern belles down at Houston. And our captain, Greer Jones, picked one of those young ladies' name out of a hat, and that's my wife, Robbie. So he was upset with the way I played the tournament before, and he tried to embarrass me, and he did a good job of that, but I got a wife out of the bargain. And then the first year I was golf coach, he blessed me with a great player, Tom Jones. I was 24. I was probably just about the same age as most of those guys. And Tom Jones was not only a great player, but he was a leader, and he set the tone for everybody on the team. And he was also a great recruiter, and he blessed me with Lindy Miller. And Lindy's here tonight, Tom's here tonight. But Lindy Miller's like being a basketball coach and you get Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Life's going to be pretty good. I'll always be thankful for that. So those two guys, along with another guy that I picked up as an afterthought, David Edwards, that year, right along with Lindy Miller. David Edwards, I took him because his brother was a great player for us, and I felt an obligation to offer him a scholarship. I never dreamed that he would be a great player. He was small in stature, didn't hit the ball very far. I was like Coach Harris. I liked those guys that could pound it out there. Well, at the end of the day, their senior year, Lindy Miller was College Player of the Year, and David Edwards won the NCAA Individual Championship. They were by far the two best players in college golf. So those three guys, thank you. Those three guys set the stage, and we recruited a lot of great players, but it wasn't me. It's a team effort, and you'll be successful as a recruiter if the players you have love it, where they love being on the team, like the way things are done, and they feel like that youngster will have just as good an experience as they did. If your players aren't happy, you're not getting anyone else. I don't care how good a salesman you are. I don't care how bright and shiny your facilities are. Nothing trumps people. So I've got a lot of other players that I could recognize tonight. I apologize that I can't mention you by name. Just trust me, we had a lot of great players. It wasn't my coaching ability. It was their ability. And I want to say a little bit about the donors because they provided those resources. Without them, we couldn't have done anything. First off would be Steve Payne, and his family's here tonight. Steve was the first one that believed that we could do something special. He donated every chance he got. His family went with us to the NCAA in '76 at Albuquerque where we won. He also introduced me to another great donor. All these people to begin with are from Oklahoma City Golf and Country Club. That gentleman was Edward C. Julian, and after I played golf with Steve and Mr. Julian, he let our team use his corporate jet to travel to a couple of tournaments every year. He backed us every way he could, and he was the first gentleman to step up and donate some money for Karsten Creek. He gave $500,000 in 1981 or 2. And I dreamed of that golf course in 73 when I was just starting out. I don't know why. I thought it'd be a great idea because Coach Harris built Lakeside Golf Course north of Stillwater. I thought we'll build something that's a little bit grander in style or in fashion or in scope. And the next guy is Wiley T. McCollin. He was a cardiologist in Oklahoma City. He allowed us to buy 160 acres of what was a key parcel we needed for Karsten Creek. I think that cost around $400,000, and he did that in 1983. And then there's Karsten and Louise Solheim. We had a great partnership with Ping, Karsten Manufacturing. We had risen together. The success of our program and Ping Golf Clubs was linked. By the early 80s, every player on our team used Ping Golf Clubs. So it seemed natural to me if we were going to build this golf course, I needed some help from the Solheim family. And so over a period of 4 or 5 years, I'd done the stewardship with him with no luck. He was a little bit like Laban Harris. He was a little close with the dollar. But I got a call late at night about 1988. It was Karsten, and he said, Louise and I are going to give you some money for that golf course. And I'm thinking millions, you know, I've got these big ideas. He said, we're going to give you $500,000. And I was excited and depressed at the same time because I thought, we'll never get this thing built. About a week later, my wife called me, said she got a FedEx envelope. I ran home. I flipped open the envelope. I got the check out, and then I was so depressed. And she said, what's the matter? And I said, he only sent $100,000. I don't know what I'm going to do now. And she got the check. She looked at it, and she said, oh, dummy, it's $1 million. It's $1 million. So I called Karsten the next day, and I said, thank you very much, but you made a mistake on the check. And he said, well, that's all right, isn't it? And eventually he gave us $4 million, and we started that course in 91, and we finished it in 1994. We needed to build a clubhouse to host the national championship, and I needed to raise about $10 million for that. We had a guy in Oklahoma City named Bob Coleman. He gave us $2 million for that. Those of you that didn't have the privilege of meeting Bob Coleman, he was a conservative Republican, and he had those billboards around Oklahoma City back in the 90s where it said, Bob C. is right. That was all it said. And they were everywhere. I never asked him what he was right about. I should have done that. And then, last but not least, I want to thank Jerry Walsh, who was in the video, Sherman Smith and Boone Pickens. They came to the first Pro-Am in 1973. They never missed until 2 of them died, Jerry Walsh and Sherman Smith, and Boone Pickens is still coming every year. So the video said from small acorns to tiny trees go. Just shows if you're patient and you work hard. We live in a great country. Anything's possible. I used to tell my players all the time, dream big. You never know what might happen. Even if you don't quite get there, you're probably going to have a pretty good life and be pretty successful. In closing, I see our current coach out there, Alan Bratton. Alan, stand up. Yeah, nothing would please me more than in 3 decades from now, we've got him up here because, as I said, this is a team effort. I think it's great for Oklahoma that you have a program, a golf program at the collegiate level that's striving for excellence, that's nurturing and taking into its fold the great players coming out of this state and attracting others from all over the world because this is a global sport now. That's all good for the University or Oklahoma. And Ryan Hibble's here from OU. Where are you at, Ryan? You know, Oklahoma University having a great football program, I could make a case maybe the best of all time, has been good for Oklahoma State football. It shows it's possible in Oklahoma to be the best in football. And I'd like to think that we set the stage in golf, but it's never bad to have competition. So, Ryan, I hope you have a great team, just not quite as good as the Cowboys. Thank you very much.